wonderful panel today to talk to you about leadership. And we're not going to stand up here and just talk to you. You all said you want to hear about leadership, so we want to hear from you. We're going to ask questions of the panel. So start thinking now about the questions you want to ask these people. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Before I start that, I've met many of you here today, but I'm Kathy Fox. I'm actually with Point Broadband. Many years in the industry, though, with Adelphia Cable and with Comcast, and now working with Point Broadband out of Auburn, Alabama, with a lot of my friends from the cable industry. So it's been a fun journey, and I was thanks to Mike Odell for asking me to come up here today and see everybody and spend some time with the leadership panel. So I'm going to introduce the folks, and then I'm going to make them tell you a little bit about themselves. So as you hear them talk about themselves a little bit, think about, oh, this is what I want to know from him, and this is what I want to know from her. So I'm going to start the furthest away from me because he's got a fantastic voice that we all want to hear on the microphone a little bit, I think. Mike Sammons where are you from, sir? Armstrong, maybe?
Armstrong, yes.
I'm going to hear him talk a lot. You give him a mic, I don't think he's going to take it away, but he's got a great voice.
Thank you, I appreciate that. No pressure on the voice. I'm the Vice President of Field Operations for Armstrong. We put butts in trucks, highly skilled butts in trucks, and delivered a fast, friendly, and effortless Armstrong experience.
Thank you, Mike.
And I'm a huge Browns fan. Go Browns.
Yeah.
Somebody shut Mike's mic off. All right, next up from Comcast, we have Virgil King.
So good afternoon, team. My name is Virgil King. I am the Regional Vice President for Comcast in the Keystone region. Often I tell my teammates I'm the head cheerleader. Most people that I work with don't know who I am, what I do, since we have such a vast region from northeast to southwest. But I've been in the cable game, I would say, for about 26 years. I started my career back in 1998 as a contractor installing PrimeStar, DirecTV, and Dish Network. So that's how I got my start as a cable dude.
Thank you, sir. Up next, we have also from Comcast, Angela Churchill. Also, I'm just going to pitch for a recent Betsy Magnus leadership graduate as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I just graduated last week, so I don't know that I have shared too much yet, but thank you all for having me today. I have to say, this is my first time at this event. I am now a new member, Danielle, so I have taken your lead, and it is amazing. I am the Senior Director of Marketing, Operations, and Analytics for Comcast Business in the Keystone region. I started at Comcast 12 years ago, completely new to the cable and technology industry, and can't get enough of it. And one of the things I like to share about leadership and what I've done is at Comcast, other than the job I was hired for, every one of my promotions since then, the job did not exist before I had it. You have to have the vision to create your path, and I like to share that with people. So we'll be sharing a little bit about that today with you.
Thank you. And our own SCTE, Jill Banks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Banks. I am the Director of Learning Operations at SCTE. You guys probably have seen my name on something I've sent out about something about learning, whatever it is. But I've been with SCTE 7 years. I came to this industry, new to the industry. I didn't know a whole heck of a lot about telecommunications other than I had cable and it worked. And that's about it. Over the years, I've learned a drastic amount. And I live right outside of Philadelphia, so go Eagles.
No.
Sorry, no Browns, go Eagles. 90 better? Okay, all right. But I learned a lot about cable and telecommunications, and I think the pandemic really helped bring that to the forefront for not only me, but a lot of other people. And I say a shout out, and whenever I talk about this industry, I talk about each and every one of you and how each and every one of you held us together during the height of the pandemic. If it was not for this industry, we would not have been connected to one another. And so whether you guys realize it or not, each and every one of you are leaders. And each and every one of you have contributed to the success of your organizations and the success of this industry.
All right, I think I'm going to pick on Jill first because we are at an SCTE event, and everyone thinks of the SCTE and we think technical. So, Jill, when you think about leadership, when you think about the SCTE, how do the two combine to make great leaders for the people, the men and women that are in this room?
So I always start with saying leadership is not about a title or a position you've had. It's about how you interact and inspire people, motivate people, encourage people. And What we are really focused on is uplifting the industry and growing the industry and inspiring the industry. And so we want to transcend that back to each and every one of you to do that for others. So from an SCTE perspective, it's focused on building the skill set so that you have the confidence to be who you are, what you are, and so that you can inspire others, give back to others. I'm a big proponent of reaching back and helping others who have come behind me so that they can travel the pathway that I've traveled much easier than what I did. It doesn't mean that they have to be a direct report of me. It could be someone I'm working with on a team or outside of work or at church or any of the other organizations I'm affiliated with. It's again trying to inspire and motivate them, and I really think that's the crux of what we're trying to do is uplift everyone.
Thank you. Folks on the panel, any comments on what Jill said?
I'll just add, I really liked what she had to say about it. You know, it's not about your position, and I strongly agree with that. I think in leadership, people that rely on positional authority, it's a weak approach.
Yeah.
And you can only get so far with that. To me, it's about influence and how you use your influence to help others get where they're going. You know, I think about my role at the corporate headquarters for Armstrong right now, and the reality is in the mix that I work in, even though we have the largest portion of the workforce, about 500 strong in the company, when I'm at the headquarters, most of the people I work with don't report to me. You know, so I have to use my influence and good looks, which I'm running short on, to get things done. So I do believe in influence a lot.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody, any other
Yeah,
thoughts?
I'll just say the part about inspiring. So I think if you think back, you know, when you're in high school, if you played athletics, those coaches or teachers or mentors that inspired you. So you know, when I think about discretionary effort and talking about, you know, meeting our objectives, I remember, you know, my time as a technician. While I didn't have a title, I felt like even within my peer group, I felt like I led. I felt like I was someone that could be leaned on, trusted. So to what Jill had mentioned, it really is, I think, everything we do, regardless of our position in the organization, it's about inspiring people to maybe do a little bit more than what they're expecting to do. So, very valid point. Anything that I'm trying to show with my team is about motivating and inspiring others.
Yeah, and I think to double down on that, Virgil, you know, the people in this room want to hear about leadership and how to progress into that. The leadership starts long before the title, and just owning leadership and embellishing that in your role and working with your peers, managing up. I'm sure we manage up more than we manage down sometimes. So just doing things like that is really your first steps into leadership and kind of creating the path that you want. And always being open to that possibility. Like I said, at Comcast, roles didn't exist before I raised my hand where I saw an opportunity. So never think, no matter what size corporation that you work for, that you're not in control of your own destiny, because you absolutely are.
And follow up, Angela, with events like this, networking opportunities, how important are they to developing leadership skills?
Yeah, I mean, they're really critical. I have to say, obviously, I'm from a marketing background, so it's on me to really talk about networking. But as I've grown up, I've really learned how networking has really made me a better leader and, quite honestly, just a better employee overall. So I think when you think about your day, you really think about who you're talking to every day, and it's probably quite a small circle. And for you to really start to have diversity of thought and leadership styles, you really have to start to expand that circle outside of who you talk to, your roles, your cross-functional roles, your direct reports. And these networking events where you can talk to people from other industries, other leaders, what I just did at Betsy Magnus really opens the door to the thought of how you can do things differently and how you can start to interact with other people to kind of polish that style. The one thing that's really critical in leadership, I will tell you, I personally prefer leading projects naturally than people. So I really have to be intentional about leading people and making sure that I'm checking in on them and really learning that as a leader, what makes me the best is I'm flexing to the people that I'm working with. And by having a different network and having a different network of people, you start to learn how to flex that muscle to know this is what works in this situation. In this situation, I need a little bit of grit. In this situation, I need a little bit of grace. And really learning to flex that muscle through a different network is very important. And beyond that, this network is amazing for opportunities. So once people see you in a room and see who you are, they'll remember you and kind of contact you when opportunities come up. That's how I'm here on this stage today. I don't think I'm a natural fit, but I'm on the WICS board, and Danielle asked if I wanted to come join you guys for the day, and I said, hell yeah, I do. Sign me up.
You just increased your network. Others, comments on this? Anybody?
Yeah, I would double down on, leveraging these opportunities and being very intentional. Today is a great day, and the fact that you all are wanting to grow your skills and your mindset, that's awesome. I talk to my teammates quite often. The average tenure of my team, I support about 800 employees across the region. Average tenure is 24 years. So, some of my employees kind of get into a fixed mindset, stuck in a rut, but those employees that are intentional about raising their hands and say, I want to do a little bit more. I want to make sure that what I'm able to do. And a team of 800, it is tough to do that, but I do carve out lots of my time during my week for one-on-one meetings with frontline employees, and those frontline employees that raise their hands and say, Virgil, hey, can I get 10 minutes of your time? And to Angela's point, don't waste these opportunities. Make sure that your brand is at least known, and no one's going to be able to talk about your story better than you are, right? So again, you've got to be very intentional with these opportunities and whomever you can get in front of.
I'm going to throw a question at the audience because you just said a word that I'm interested in. Know your brand. How many of you in here know your brand? Hands up. Hands up high. All right, I'm going to pick on somebody. Stand up to the room and tell us your brand.
Yeah.
My name is Kevin Otis, director for Comcast. I actually work with Virgil. So I would say my brand is very outgoing. If I say I'm going to get something done, I try to back it up. Doug Balin asked me to be here over a month ago, and I gave him my word then. Here I am today. We're running a business, so I think it's that. It's he said it a minute ago, being intentional. So if I say something, typically I mean it, and I try to stand behind that.
All right, let's give him a hand. Good morning, guys.
Easy to pick on.
If you're in the front and you're wearing pink.
And go Bengals, go Bengals. We're adding that in there, go Bengals.
Kathy, I was just going to add for the networking aspect. I think of the network like a safety net almost. It's peers, colleagues, but more than anything, it's access to subject matter experts. I don't know a lot of this stuff. I have a lane that I'm in, and I rely on my network to help educate me and make sure I'm not missing anything on the other areas.
Great answer.
The only thing I want to add to it is be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to. I shout out, where's Robert? He's the student that we just recognized. This is outside of his comfort zone. As a 17, 18-year-old coming into a group like this, not even graduating from high school, this is very intimidating. So you have to be willing to do things that make you uncomfortable. That's how you grow. You cannot stay in your niche, in your comfort zone. It will not help you in the long run. You have to be willing to be brave and do something that you're like,
I'm just going to share a personal experience on the importance of a network. So Angela mentioned Betsy Magnus. I was in Betsy Magnus' class a lot of years ago, much lower number than she was. And the reason I have the job I have today, because Comcast wiped out about 300 of us in Comcast business headquarters back in December. I was like, okay, I'll start looking for a job. I actually got the job because of my network. It was a guy I worked on cable swaps with back in the late 90s, and one of my Betsy Magnus classmates who said, hey, come to work. We've never worked together. And that's how I got the job. So it's not just about growing within the company you work today, because sometimes those things change. Ownership changes, roles change. But that network is the ones that are going to pick you up and help you find your next role when you are intentional about meeting those people. So I got another question for the audience. How many of you met 5 new people today? How many of you met more than 5 new people today? Those of you that didn't meet any new people today, be intentional. Make sure that you meet at least 2 or 3 more people today before you leave here. Whether they're with your company, with another company, one of our vendors, they're great people to know and to build your technical knowledge, build your network. Now I'm going to throw the question. I'm going to look at Virgil. When you are getting ready to promote somebody to lead people, what do you look for?
I think Mr. K said it earlier in his interview with that news broadcast, I am looking for someone that is in service of others first, right? I think you have to be good at your job, and I was making fun of Kevin, you know, they shouldn't give him a fusion splicer because he's gonna mess things up. But as you're looking to grow your career and lead what I call in a bigger playing field, you've got to be good in your role, right? So that kind of goes without saying. Now, how can you lead others if you're not good in your craft? And you know, I never once said that I wanted this job that I have. I think I've had some really strong leaders, champions, and sponsors in my corner. But I do think that I'm afforded this great opportunity to lead this team because I'm in service to others. And I think when you have that service mindset first, your team knows who you are, what you're about, what your North Star is, and you know that I've got your back, right? So I think all things after that, the technical prowess, you know, getting the stuff done, moving the widgets, I think that all comes in play. But again, if you know that your leader has your back in a service to you, I think the rest of that stuff just kind of fits naturally.
Great answer. And being in the service industry where you're taking care of customers, you see that in your people. You know they're taking good care of customers, the way you're taking good care of your employees.
That's right.
Folks, other comments? What do you look for? The next person you're going to hire to be a people leader?
I 100% agree with what you said. It is not about the specific technical aspects because you can teach that. It's what's in you. It's those interpersonal relationships and building relationships and how you can interact with others. Because at the end of the day, you have to have their back and they have to have yours because you're a team. Even though you're hiring a leader, you're going to rely on them to do some things. They have to have the skills to motivate and inspire, goes back to my original words, to motivate and inspire others. So they have to be able that service to others and help others. I come from a customer service background, so that was always first and foremost was you needed to know how to interact with others and build relationships. So that's important to me.
One of the things that I consider a great quality of a leader, people leader specifically, and I like how you kind of defined project leadership, or I call those individual contributors versus people leaders. They're both extremely important, but they're two totally different tracks of leadership.
Yeah.
And to lead people in our organization, I don't mean this in a religious way, but my folks know this, I think you have to have a pastor's heart, and that's what Virgil was talking about, being a service. You have to really have a care for other people outside of yourself. You know, I think in people leadership, as you elevate, you're becoming smaller, and the people around you are becoming bigger. You go from being in the spotlight to becoming the spotlight on others. It takes someone special, wired a special way to do that, you know. And I do think people leaders are wired different because to get to those wins, there's so much stuff that you got to go through with people, and people are tough, and they let you down sometimes, you know, and they don't do what they say they're going to do. But you got to go through all that and have the heart for that kind of disappointment, for the little wins when someone gets that job, or when that kid graduates and gets that certificate, or when, you know, someone gets that certification or that promotion. Those are the rewards that I think drive good people leaders. We're just wired different. That's how we get our dopamine hits.
But then also to encourage them when they make those mistakes.
Yes.
And have their back and say, you know what, yeah, you made that mistake. It's not the end of the world. Well, what did you learn from it? And not to lose your cool when that happens, because again, you're there to help support and grow them. Because sometimes that's a little difficult, especially when it's a big mistake.
I would also like to dispel kind of the myth that you have to.
We can't hear you.
Here we go. Try it again. Can you hear me now?
Give it a second to come on.
I don't see the
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
the
switched
lights.
it the wrong way.
No, it's on.
or maybe it died.
I think mine died.
Here.
They don't want me to talk anymore. You can't silence me. Nice try. Speaking of that, one of the things I'd like to dispel as a myth as a leader is I think a lot of people, when we talk about inspiring people and being able to communicate and visionary, they think that that person is loud and extroverted and all of those things. And while you sometimes may have to flex that muscle, that's not who you have to be all the time. How you inspire people and how you get to that place of being that people leader needs to be authentic. And only you can really define that. I would say what makes somebody a really good leader is somebody who learns from other leaders but doesn't parrot. And that's a big difference on how you do things. And I would also say I always look for someone who's naturally curious. Like, are you thinking about things differently? Are you asking questions that I'm not asking? Are you collaborating with people that I'm not thinking about? Because I will tell you, as a leader, you've got your own team to manage, but I would say the most difficult part, as we've talked about, is managing the people that you influence and making sure that you're bringing that into your success of your team and your people. And thank you, Virgil, for sharing like with me.
Kevin, let me add one more thing that I think is really important, at least in my journeys in leadership. One of the things that I look for, especially from a frontline employee that wants to get into leadership, and I remember my first supervisor role, I was leading about 20 technicians that I kind of grew up learning my craft. And that's a tough transition for frontline leaders. They already know them, want to be liked, want to be respected. And the one thing that I certainly look for in a new leader is the willingness to embrace conflict. Leadership is not easy, it's a sacrifice, it is a tough gig. But I would say that it's probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But again, it's one of those things that if you're not able to embrace conflict, have a tough conversation, allow some of the mediocrity to go on and not hold your teammates to the same standards, to our expectations, I often see that leader struggle because they don't know how to differentiate, between holding someone accountable and having that tough conversation. So that to me is a big one that I look for.